Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 28th of January. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director of Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is the weekly video where I take your requests and analyse the share price charts. This week we have Sonic Healthcare, Andromeda Metals, Pilbara Minerals, A2 Milk and Magellan Energy. So if you have a request, send it through. Make sure you are getting the free newsletters. Of course, my better ideas are in my Tuesday report, the Dynamic Investor, so make sure you're a subscriber to that report. Our main business, of course, is portfolio management, so if you want some personal help, please call me and I can explain how it works. And any advice here, of course, is general only. So this is the daily chart of Sonic Healthcare. So first up, we had this big reversal in August. So after a big run up, it gapped quite a bit higher, was sold off, and then continued to weaken. So that was a bit of a negative sign. It then tried to recover, couldn't quite get back to that previous peak, and then again in November was sold down. So we've got a few negative signs there. On the positive side, on the plus side, we've got some higher lows. So we do have some lower highs, but we've also got some higher lows. So at the moment, it now appears to be forming this symmetrical triangle. So it's managing to hold in there now. Of course, we need to see which direction it wants to break. But after a few sort of negative signs, it looks like it's trying to hold in. Okay, Andromeda Metals. So look, this has generally been trading pretty well. I mean, every time it, rallies, it does so impulsively on volume, and then on the pullbacks, lower volumes. So if you were fortunate enough to get in here, there really shouldn't have been any reason to sell it through this whole period. Again, volume on the way up. Sold off here, but then it's managing to hold in. So look, the overall picture still looks good, but in terms of a buy point, it's sort of in the middle of a range here. So you've got this, what looks like resistance here in the low 30s, and a bit of support down here. So, do you really want to be buying it right in the middle here? So what I'd prefer to see is this get through what is clearly resistance. I think if you get a big day up, closing up here, and you could see a spike in volume, that would be the next buy signal. But at the moment, I think it's a bit too early. Okay, Pilbara Minerals. So, fantastic run here, obviously at the end of last year. But as everyone can notice, we got this big reversal a few days ago. So sort of gapped higher. So we call this a bearish engulfing pattern. It's not a good pattern, and it's done so on high volume as well. Now, sometimes you can get this pattern and then it just continues to edge higher. In this case, it's not doing anything like that. It's we've got a couple of weak closes here. On the plus side, it hasn't continued on, but it's not showing any signs of strength yet. So, for me, I'd rather just be on the sidelines here and just wait for this sort of correction to be over, whether it's a sideways correction or a downwards correction. I want to see that over before I'd be jumping in. And obviously, if we move to a weekly chart, you could see that the prior peak here at around $1.10, it's obviously flown through that, obviously a bit too quickly, and been sold down. So it'd be nice for it to establish support on this level. I think if it drops under $1.10, then that is a negative, and we're going to get a bit of a pullback first before it can continue higher. A2 Milk. So daily chart, obviously last 6 months downtrend. But what I've noticed is when it gapped down in December, it actually didn't continue on and get worse. The day after it started to rally and see some buying. So, this gap down after a downtrend on volume could be a sign of exhaustion. So all the sellers, all the weak hands finally giving up. A bit of a bounce. Obviously, it's come back. Some people have made a quick profit here, but it's found support at $10, and then it's had a really good day yesterday despite a weak market, on volume as well. So look, I don't know if it's going to do anything in a hurry, but I think at the very least it looks like, I think there's some decent support here. So it might even just hang around here for a little bit longer. But I mean, encouraging signs that we've probably seen a low there in A2 milk. Okay, finally Magellan Energy. So I like the overall profile. Big move up here on volume. And then since July, we could see that it hasn't been sold back down to these levels. It's merely just gone sideways. So overall, when I see this sort of pattern, I'd like to keep an eye on it, wait for an eventual break, which is what we seem to be seeing right now. So look, I think the first sign was here, to be honest. I mean, that sort of reversal here, a lot of volume picked up on that reversal, and then the next day it jumped higher. So it looked like a clear support level where people might have had their stops, but it managed to reverse pretty quickly. So I think that was the first sort of initial buy signal. But then clearly yesterday's move is the proper buy signal. You've got a big day closing on its highs, massive volume, basically breaking out of this basically breaking out of this range. So that's the buy. I think that's pretty clear. Obviously, if it turns around straight away, I think trading back under this sort of line basically is a negative, or even about 22 cents. So I think as long as any short-term weakness is contained within sort of the top half of this bar, I think that's okay. But generally it should kick on. So I think that's a buy. And what I'd do is basically, if we get a nice close up to a new high, then I'd be, personally, I'd consider adding to it. That's how I treat that as a trade. So initial buy, and then, add to it on a close up there. All right, that's all for this week. If you have a request, send it through. I'll try to look at your stock next Thursday for you.